karavavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Could you recommend a text for continued study of Kathopanishad? As yet, I think our Pujya Swamiji's book on Kathopanishad has not come out. Mundakopanishad we have, Kathopanishad we don't have. So, I will have to look into that. Which book can I recommend? I know Swami Paramarthananda's book on Kathopanishad.
He has the lectures.
Lectures, okay.
On Hindu online.
Lectures are one thing, yeah. Not the book. Study of Kathopanishad. I'll take a look at it and see what book. Many books. Kathopanishad is a very popular Upanishad. Lots of books are available. There was Swami Krishnananda, for example, of Shivananda, Divine Life Society, and likely there would be a book by Swami Krishnananda on Kathopanishad, would be like an authentic book. But I will take a look at it.
Swami, I read a short one by Rajagopalachari.
Rajagopalachari would be sure. But we would look for a Vedantic teacher, you know, and one who is committed to Advaita, non-duality. Because text leads to different kinds of interpretations, and since our orientation is one of non-duality, we would recommend a book which is compatible to that, so it doesn't create any confusion, etc. Nothing about Rajagopalachari, but as I said, what we are talking about is the traditional teacher. Whatever is destined not to happen will not happen. Try as you may. Whatever is destined not to happen will not happen. Try as you may. Whatever is destined to happen will happen. Do what you may to prevent it. This is certain. The best course, therefore, is to remain silent. Ramana Maharshi says this. So where does Purushartha fall? Meaning, what's the role of self-effort? If destiny determines everything, then what is the role of self-effort? So this is being told to a person who has the capacity to accept things as they are. And therefore, remaining silent means letting things go, letting things happen the way they do. When I am very clear that what happens out there is not of any consequence to me, something else is of consequence to me, meaning when my priorities are changed, then only this advice would be meaningful to us. As long as we have things to accomplish in life, in terms of dharma, artha, kama, wealth, pleasure, etc., as long as we accomplish those things, so long Purushartha or self-effort definitely has a role to play. Meaning that we can influence destiny by our effort. Human life is not totally determined by destiny. Life of all the creatures is determined by destiny, but not human life, because we have free will. And free will can influence the destiny. To what extent we do not know. The destiny is very powerful, perhaps we cannot do much about it. Destiny is middling, we can influence it somewhat. Destiny is weak, we can influence it a lot. And so, our effort can influence the destiny. Or with our effort, we can create our own destiny, because what we call destiny now was self-effort at some point. So what is destiny is nothing but the results of the karma or the actions we have performed in the past. So that time we perform the actions with our free will, which are now giving rise to the result which we call destiny. Similarly also, what you do now with your free will create the destiny of our future. So, if you are in a position, a state, where there is nothing to accomplish other than moksha, then let things go on. Then you do not try to change anything. Let things come and go. As Lord Krishna says, Tam stitikshasva bharata. Here Arjuna, put up with them. Pleasure and pain, heat and cold, success and failure, they will come. And you put up with them. Don't try to influence them. So, this advice of Brahman Maharshi would apply to someone who does not have any material, desire for any material achievements, who is only committed to the spiritual achievement. For that person, this will be okay. Because what happens happens in the material plane. When we say what happens will happen, what will happen at material plane. What will not happen again at the material plane. If that doesn't matter to me, I allow it to happen. When it matters to me, then I have to use my free will. You follow? So, what Ramana Maharshi says applies perhaps to a spiritual aspirant of high order, but it may not apply to everybody. Can you please expand on seeing inaction in action? Like Yamaraja, as we said in the morning, or Lord Krishna or a Jnani. Seeing inaction in action. Although we say seeing inaction in action, when you use this case in, it's like the seventh case. Seeing inaction in action. So where action is happening, see inaction there. You follow? So it looks like. Does it mean that where action is happening, I try to see it as inaction? Which is not possible. So it is not seeing literally inaction in action. However, what it means is that when action is taking place, there is something that does not act. So in fact, the right way of saying would be seeing the actionless in the one who is thought to be performing action. Seeing the actionless in the one that is thought to be performing action. We call him karta. Karta means the performer of action. I look upon myself as a doer of action. So right now when I am speaking, my notion about myself is I am a speaker. Or when you are listening to this, your notion is you are a listener. So that is the notion that we have about ourselves, where we superimpose the action taking place at one level upon something else. Meaning that right now the act of speaking is taking place at the level of speech. And I identify with that and I label myself as a speaker, whereas the speakerness belongs to the organ of speech. Similarly, when you say that you are a listener, listening really takes place in the organ of hearing. And only when we identify with the organ of hearing that we label ourselves a hearer. So see the non-hearer in hearer, see the non-speaker in speaker, meaning that when I brand myself as a speaker, I happen to be a non-speaker. Because the speaking does not take place at the level of self. Speaking takes place at the level of the organ of speech. And habitually, by identifying with the organ of speech, I brand myself as a speaker. And then unfortunately suffer from the consequence of being a speaker. On account of branding myself as a speaker, speaker is an example. So doer. The agent of a speaker is the agent of act of speaking. Listener is the agent of the act of listening. The doer is the agent of act of doing. So I keep on branding myself the agent of action. Whereas actions are taking place at the level of organ of action, we have 5 organs of action. That is where the actions take place. And we have 5 organs of perception. There also you can say action takes place, seeing, hearing, thinking, etc. Upanishad says, Pranandeva pranana bhavati vadan vak pasyan chakshu shrunvan shrotram manvano manah. Meaning that when breathing takes place, this fellow calls himself breather. When seeing takes place, he says, I am a seer. When hearing takes place, he says, I am a hearer. So that we think that we are seer, hearer, speaker, thinker, all of this is the notion arising from identifying with my role. Like the actor thinking that he is a beggar when he identifies with a role. So all these are roles. Speaker is a role. Hearer is a role. Thinker is... Now who am I? Right now I am saying I am a speaker. Little later I will say I am a hearer. Wait a minute, Swami, you thought you said you are a speaker, now you say you are a hearer? How can speaker become hearer? There cannot be change in nature of something. That thing is a speaker, it remains a speaker wherever it is. I don't know where is the speaker here. Okay. It remains a speaker, it never doesn't hear this thing, That's why we call him speaker. Meaning the rule is that there cannot be a change in the inherent nature of anything. Fire is always hot, it can never be cold. Sun is always bright, it cannot be dark. Similarly, there cannot be change in the nature of things. Tomorrow this will come, by the way. Nahi svabhava bhavanam vyavartet aushna dravehe. He said that bhavanam svabhavana vyavartet, meaning the inherent nature of a thing never changes. Like the sun never gives up its heat or light. Similarly, if hearer is my nature, I cannot become speaker. Because I have changed my nature, isn't it? Earlier I was hearer, now I am a speaker, then I am a thinker, then I am a walker, then I am an eater. That means I keep on changing my nature. Then what changes cannot be nature? It is something similar to a crystal. See, in Ahmedabad we have the whole set of things, by the way. Now I am not asking you to get it here, but we have crystals there, and we have parts there, and we have all kinds of things for demonstrating. But you know what I am talking about. A crystal is by itself transparent, colorless. When you place a colored object beside the crystal appears colored. It may appear red. If you change the object, it may appear yellow. It may appear blue. So what's the nature of crystal? Is it red or yellow or blue? That which changes color, this cannot be, none of them can be the color of crystal because the color changes. These colors are superimposed upon the crystal, and even when the crystal appears red, it is not red. the redness is superimposed upon crystal. Similarly also when the self, who is like the crystal, and the talking takes place at the organ of speech, when it is superimposed upon the self, then I think that I am a speaker, I am a hearer, I am a thinker, I am a knower. Whereas all of these, they do not in any way belong to the self. Therefore, while speaking takes place, to be aware of the fact that I do not speak, which is a fact. Who speaks? The speaking takes place at the level of organ of speech in my presence. Who am I? I am the consciousness in presence of whom the speaking takes place, hearing takes place, thinking takes place, all actions take place. And therefore, it is not really seeing actionless in action. But when actions are taking place, there is an actionless entity which is myself. So seeing the self as actionless when all actions are taking place in the presence of the self. So that is called seeing. Similarly, Yamaraja performs the act of, cleaning out the life from a living being. In his mind, he knows I am actionless. This is taking place at the level of organ of action. Like Yamaraja. Like Lord Krishna says, I don't do anything. Like a wise person says, I don't do anything. This is because the self does not do anything. Not that the wise person doesn't do. Nobody does. Self doesn't do. We just superimpose the doing taking place at one point upon the self and think that we are doing and suffering from that. Therefore, to become free from all the pain that comes from looking upon myself as a doer goes away in recognition that I am not a doer. Seeing the actionless in action. Actionlessness is in one place, action is in another place, understand. Action is in this body-mind sense complex. Actionlessness is in the self. So it is not that I say my body doesn't do anything. No, it does. Action takes place in body, sense organs, mind. He is not saying actionless there. While action takes place in all these organs, at that time the self is actionless. You understand? Even that is saying seeing action is actionless, recognizing the one who is thought to be actor is in fact actionless. That I think that I am speaker, even then also I am actionless. My true nature is Satchit Ananda. However, my experience is one of a limited being. Limitlessness of nature, my experience is I am a limited being. How is the infinite, eternal bliss my true nature? How has it got overtaken by the limited mind? But the mind is functioning by the grace of Atman. So how does the Atman get controlled by the limited mind? The answer is ignorance. Even though limitlessness is my nature, I look upon myself as a limited being on account of a phenomenon called adhyasa or superimposition. Meaning that there is limitedness somewhere. In the body, in the sense organs, in the mind, there indeed is limitedness. All of them are limited or insignificant. And what ignorance makes me do is superimpose those limitations upon myself and looking upon myself as a limited being. So ignorance is the reason. Why? I don't know. Why ignorance? Why does ignorance do that? That's called ignorance which does it. So ignorance is defined like that. That first of all it veils my true nature, meaning that I do not know that I am limitless. And secondly, it shows me in a wrong light. What is limitless is shown to be limited. So ignorance has these two aspects. I do not know that I am limitless, and secondly, I wrongly know myself as a limited being. A rope snake example, I do not know the rope as rope, it's one aspect, and I take it to be snake. This is how Vedanta explains ignorance, to explain what is happening in our life. This is a question that arises in every mind. It is out of frustration. That is limitless in my nature. How do I feel limited? Why? Why did God do that? So answer is ignorance. Why ignorance? No answer. Why ignorance? It is there. So, mind superimposes the limitations upon the self, and then I see myself as a limited being because of ignorance. Sometimes they call it Maya. Maya means the power of superimposition, power of projection. So whatever be the reason, why is it happening, it is not going to solve the problem. Even if you know why, still the problem remains to be solved. I continue to feel limited. So what do I have to do? I have to know that I am limitless. So self-knowledge is the solution. And then whatever is required to prepare the mind for that self-knowledge. How do you console yourself for the death of a family member? Losing someone near and dear is a very difficult thing. All consoling happens at the intellectual level, all reasoning. That after all, human being is mortal. Death is certain for the one who is born. And therefore this person passed away because there is destiny. All of this is right. All of this reasoning takes place at the intellectual level. Where the grief is at the emotional level. Understand this. That's the reason why intellectual reasoning cannot remove that grief. Momentarily you may feel a little bit of consolation that, oh, I understand that yes, death is certain for the one who is born. But even that understanding also, the grief is not so much because of someone's death. The grief is because of the loss which occurs in my life on account of someone's death or passing away. Any and every death does not cause grief. Not so, even the death of a near relative, it ought may not. Sometimes a good riddance, sometimes. So death doesn't always do that. Only when that causes a sense of loss in my personal life, meaning that all the grief is centered upon I, not centered upon something else. It is not that I am grieving because of that person. What about that person? Poor fellow died. What will happen to him? That is not the cause of grief. On account of that person's passing away, the vacuum that is created in my life, the loss that I feel because the physical presence is no more there, even though Atma is eternal, all of that is fine, but heart doesn't understand that. All it wants is that warmth that was coming from the physical presence of that person, which is lost, and therefore it is loss of that warmth. And a lot of the security and whatever comfort we are getting, we have lost it. The grief is because of that loss. And it is a reality, meaning that no amount of reasoning will help somewhat, but will not remove the grief. The only thing that we can do is try to, what we have lost, try to provide it to somebody. The comfort that I lost, the warmth that I lost, maybe I provide warmth to somebody. You follow what I am saying? That is the way to get it back. I cannot get now from this person who has departed, but what I can do is I reach out to somebody who is grieving and provide comfort there. This is done at emotional level, and that will neutralize or that will treat or heal the grief that I am feeling from the loss. Meaning that something has to be done. Grief will not go away simply by intellectual reasoning, even though that's what they do. That's what Lord Krishna taught Arjuna. Hey Arjuna, why is it? You are grieving for what? For nothing. For that doesn't remove the grief, unfortunately. It may remove grief, Arjuna, it doesn't remove our grief. Therefore, if you have lost something, the ideal way is to provide that to some needy persons, and that will help us, feel the gain, because we become instrumental in somebody's gain, and that's how we also gain in turn. And so, consoling is one thing, but consoling is done at the level of intellectual reasoning, which will have some effect, not no effect at all. But that consoling will not remove the loss which has taken place, and that loss can be compensated by removing somebody's loss, which becomes my gain. So that is how we can deal with that loss. That's the only way of solving all psychological problems. All problems of sadness can be solved this way, by reaching out and helping other people, relieving them from sadness to the extent that we can do. Ishvara has created such a beautiful world. Is it all mithya? Is it all maya? Should we not enjoy it? Is it there to confuse us? But why? Why does it lead us astray? Number one, that the world is mithya, that does not mean we cannot enjoy it. See, mithya, what it is only what do we call it? The ontological word, meaning it word that describes a reality. That's all. There is what we call a satyam or truth, which is absolutely real. And there is something called mithya, which is not real but appears to be real. That's all it means. Mithya does not mean it is not there. Mithya does not mean it is bad. Mithya does not mean it has to be hated or rejected. Mithya means mithya, that's all it is. And therefore, again, I would have demonstrated to you this bunch of grapes in my hand, which are so real, so juicy. Only when you touch them, you realize that is mithya. So what do you do now? Do you throw it away? It's mithya. No. Now you understand what it is. You can still enjoy what it is. You follow? Nobody denies us from enjoying what is there. Realize that what is mithya is that the world appears to give me happiness. No, that is an appearance, not a reality. Mithya cannot be source of happiness. Only what is real alone can be a source of happiness. Mithya cannot be a source of happiness. And therefore, if happiness comes from the world, it is called maya, meaning it is an appearance, not a reality. So watch out. That's all it means. Only real thing can give me happiness. And therefore, analyzing the reality of the world and recognizing that it is mithya means that the happiness that appears to come from the objects of the world is an appearance and not a reality. Do not get deluded by that. Do not chase that. Seek happiness from where it is. which is nothing but the self. So that is the purpose of understanding the mithya as mithya. That's all. Not to hate it, not even to enjoy the Jagat, beautiful world, and enjoy, that joy that comes from the self, understand. You enjoy the beautiful flowers, beautiful mountains, all you enjoy. Wonderful. At that time also, the mind has become resolved. It has become inward looking. It has come face to face with itself and enjoying its own self. So beauty that we see in the mountains, here is beauty of the self. Happiness that seems to come from there is happiness of the self. So this is what is meant by mithya. And so that I look for happiness where it really is, and do not get cheated or deluded by what is glittering in happiness. So, like moon also shines, looks like self-effulgent moon, but it is not. Even when moon appears to be bright, it is not bright. If it is shining, it is not shining. It is shining in the light of sun. So you call it mithya. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy the moon. Every scientist knows that moon, in fact, is a dark planet. What you see is just a reflection of the sunlight. You still enjoy it. You know very well that sun does not travel around the earth, doesn't revolve around the earth. You can still enjoy the revolution, knowing that it is standstill. But it appears to be traveling, you enjoy that. Enjoy the sunrise. There is no such thing as sunrise. Enjoy the sunset. There is no such thing, scientifically speaking. But still, sun appears to be rising, setting, traveling from east to west. All mithya, is it not so? Sun is standstill, meaning all the movement in sun is mithya, is it not so? What is not there, what appears to be there is called mithya. So what is standstill, what appears to be moving, that movement is mithya. That doesn't mean you cannot enjoy it. Knowing that movement is like as though movement, you can still enjoy it. You see what I'm saying? If you understand this, then it will not lead us astray. How do I understand reincarnation? I prefer to use the word rebirth. Incarnation is a technical word used for only incarnation of Lord. He incarnates. But anyway, this also has become very common, reincarnation. Call it, but it is rebirth. So, how do I understand rebirth? By recognizing that the life is eternal. That in this body, which is mortal, is contained this subtle body of the soul, who is birthless, who is eternal. So, just as the scientists explain that matter is neither created nor destroyed, there is always conservation of matter. Mass remains the same. Extend that rule also to life. The life is neither created nor does it die, there is always conservation. But then matter seems to be dying. No, it changes the form. Matter doesn't die, it changes the form. So also life does not die, it changes the embodiment. So this life, the self, the soul, doesn't die. It is one embodiment. When its job is done, goes to that embodiment. When that is done, goes to another embodiment. This is called the law of karma or cause and effect. As long as the karma of remaining his body are there, so long the Jivatma remains in his body. When those karmas end, he departs. Goes to where his karma takes it. So that's how reincarnation or rebirth can be explained by what we call law of karma, which is law of cause and effect. That we are accountable for what we do. So what actions we perform, we have to experience the results of them. If we cannot experience them in this lifetime, we need to take another birth to experience them. That is why freedom from karma is for freedom from this birth, and that cycle. If you need clarification in my answer, please raise your hand. If my explanation is not adequate to you, then please ask me. Essentially the same question. Can you say something about death? What continues? What passes away? It seems both goes on and on. What is it? Both. So, this what you see is a gross body, means which is perceptible to senses. You can touch it, taste it, smell it, etc. But what keeps this body alive is something else within the body, which is what we call the subtle body, which consists of the mind and sense organs and prana. All of them make up the subtle body. Why is it called subtle? Because it cannot be perceived by senses. So it is the subtle body which is responsible for imparting life to this gross body. Subtle body in turn receives its enlivenment from consciousness. So consciousness enlivens the subtle body, and subtle body in turn enlivens the gross body. Like in a fan, electricity energizes the motor, and motor energizes the blades. You see? The blades that you see is the gross body of the fan. The motor which is within that is like the subtle body of the fan. Electricity is like the self of the fan. Just an example. Model. Here also, this gross body is like the blades of the fan, the outer casing. All movement, life is there. This displays life. Just as the fan casing displays motion, but it is not on account of itself. That motion is imparted to the casing by another thing called motor. And so also the life is imparted to this gross body by another entity called the subtle body. But motor also needs to be enlivened or energized. Similarly also subtle, because motor itself is motionless. It is energized by electricity. So also the subtle body is enlivened by consciousness, and in turn enlivens the gross body. But the association of the subtle body and gross body is by prarabdha karma, by destiny. When that karma gets over, the subtle body departs from here, and this body becomes lifeless, which is what we call death. So this gross body dies, but the Jivatma, soul doesn't die, and he is reborn into another embodiment according to karma. When will this end? When no karma remains. When all karmas are taken care of. When will that be? When I discover that I am actionless. So in the knowledge of actionless self, all karma is gone and there is no new birth. You are free from the cycle of birth and death.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Karma ends, you said, when all the karmas are exhausted, then the karma cycle ends. How did the karma cycle begin in the first place?
So question is, you say that when the karmas are exhausted, then the cycle is over. How will it begin? How did it begin? Vedanta does not accept beginning. Nothing begins.
Then it can't accept continuity.
You yourself visualize beginning of something. Because to visualize beginning of something, what begins is what we call effect, which is born. But it presupposes a cause from which it is born. So cause must be there before the beginning of an effect. And then, so some cause is always there. So we call it beginningless. An expression, beginningless. So this karma cycle is beginningless, but it is ending. Even though there is no beginning, it can end. Thank God. Like darkness. So when the cave is dark, when did darkness begin? No beginning to darkness. It ends when you bring the light in. Please instruct on chanting Om. I hear so many different variations. AUM, Om, sometimes the Ma is carried on and held for a long time. Is there a correct way? Om, of course, is Om. The AUM is not right. Om is right. Because A and U, they combine to become O. So they write AUM just to convey the idea that Omkara is made of 3 matras or 3 letters. But when you chant, you don't chant Aum, you chant it Om. So some will chant like Aum or something. That's not right. Om is the right way of chanting. Now, in the Mandukya Upanishad, there is A stands for the creation, M stands for dissolution, and U stands for the sustenance. So, because when you utter the sound, the guttural sound is A. Then U covers the range from guttural to all the Ma, then Ma closes it. So that's how A, U, Ma covers the entire range of sound. And sound is what creates the name. From sound are made names, and names are form, and therefore that letter A stands for origination or creation. Makaram stands for the closure or dissolution, and U stands for sustenance. So sometimes you chant Om where the O is elongated, where the creation is emphasized. Sometimes they elongate Makara when the purpose is for dissolution. If you want your mind to completely merge, then you end. So, if you want your mind to recite Om and remain with it, then you elongate O. So, usually Om. But then, it is possible that some people may recite Om, where M is for the merger. So, if you want to emphasize the merger, then M may be elongated, otherwise O is elongated. Does feeling fulfilled even in the midst of adversity indicate progress? Being fulfilled, being happy, being cheerful in the midst of adversities definitely shows progress. That shows that adversities are not able to overwhelm us. Because cheerfulness or happiness comes from the self. So more we are in contact with the self, more cheerful we are. Adversities all belong to non-self, and happiness belongs to the self. Which means that when we have increased the influence of the self in our life, then the influence of the non-self decreases. So if you are able to remain calm, cheerful, in the midst of adversities, that means you attained a great level of maturity. Yes, sure. Please explain the role of worshipping Ishtadevata in realizing the self. Ishtadevata means personal God, a chosen deity. So this is in the Hinduism where a number of devatas or deities are there. Lots of incarnation of Lord Vishnu are there, and so many devatas are the creator, sustainer, dissolver. One Ishvara is presented in the form of many devatas, emphasizing some aspect of Ishvara. Because He is all things at all the times. So emphasizing one thing, like emphasizing the creator aspect of Ishvara is called Brahma. Sustenance aspect called Vishnu. Destroyer aspect called Rudra. Like every devata is nothing but Ishvara. But when one aspect is emphasized, and so you choose Ishta Devata according to your own emotional makeup, your own aptitude, your own likes, and worshipping that, worshipping creates the tuning up with Ishvara. And that tuning up with Ishvara ultimately becomes tuning up with the self. And therefore, that becomes a precursor or a preparation for the knowledge of the self. So bhakti becomes the preparation for the self-knowledge. Good? We'll conclude with one bhajan.
Swamiji, can I have a request? Could you sing Shivoham?